All right. Rock and roll, right? All right. Hey, guys. It's Samantha Studebaker-Carl coming at you from beautiful Southwest Georgia. And today is our Saturday Morning Mastermind. And we are a part of the Mindset Mastery Collective. You know, I don't mention that all the time. And I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that you can be a part of our community too. And we're all about helping each other and helping ourselves become a better version of ourselves by digging into personal development and success principles and all of that kind of stuff. And so every morning on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, we get together and we study different books. And today, or this right now, we're studying the book How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age by Dale Carnegie. And but before we get started, I want to go ahead and give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then we can go ahead and jump into this discussion. I just want to apologize to everybody for starting a couple of minutes late. My computer was being slow, and hopefully it will go smoothly from this point forward. But for those of you who are out there just randomly watching on Google+, go to SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. That will bring you to our main event page so that you can comment, and we will see your comments. Otherwise, you might be out there somewhere commenting and we won't see it. And then I did post a mobile viewing link, so hopefully those of you on mobile will find that as well. And I'll be watching the YouTube channel for comments there. So anybody want to jump out and introduce yourselves, and then we can get started.
Hey, this is Christina Irvin, and I'm here in my home office in Northeast Tennessee. Good to see you guys. Looks like we have a full panel today, so it's going to be a great discussion.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Smith from Boise, Idaho, and welcome to the call today.
Hey everybody, Jason Roberts. It's good to see everybody again. Great to be here, and thanks for coming on.
Hey. Oops. Okay. Hello, good morning. Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach, and happy to be back from my trip. Missed you all, and looking forward to the conversation.
And we are so glad you're back, and so anxious to hear about all your travels and adventures. So, my name's Catherine Clement, and I'm here in Boulder, Colorado. And we're getting some good rain. Boy, I don't think we're going to have to worry about fires this year because we're getting loaded up on the water, so we're really happy about that. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. Donna Allen, can you hear me? Donna Allen, Raleigh, North Carolina. Looking forward to the discussion today. And for all those that have attended, I can't, for some reason I want to jump back and forth, but I'll figure it out. I'm that type of person, I'll figure it out. But anyway, good morning, everyone. Let me mute this microphone.
How precious is your furry baby, Donna? I don't know if Dan can hear us or if he's on the delay.
Okay. Am I delayed?
We got you.
Okay, cool. All right, I was actually trying to make sure I reshared the YouTube link there because that first link I shared didn't share correctly. So I'm going to share that one more time. Just make sure everybody can see us. And page and tell us where you are in the world and if you've been here with us before or not. Okay, sorry guys. So cut me off and take off with it, because there's no sense in everybody trying to understand me if I'm, not making any sense. You know what I'm saying?
I can hear you fine, Samantha.
Okay, cool. It must just be me then. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, we are in, like I was saying, how to win friends and influence people in the digital age. I'm looking to see the chapter or the section, and hold on a second. Let me make sure I tell you where we are in the right place. This book is kind of weird because it's divided up into different parts, and then each part has its own little chapters. Okay, so we're in part 4, chapter 5, which is called Mitigate Fault. And, I titled our hangout this morning, how to help other people overcome their fear of failure. And, that's kind of the main topic of this particular chapter is to help other people save face, so that they aren't as afraid to make mistakes, to help people realize they aren't the only ones that are out there making mistakes, that we all make mistakes, and then kind of some different techniques on how to do that. This is kind of a longer chapter, and it had a lot of stuff in here that was really, really valuable. And so I just want to throw it out there to everybody, what was the thing that, or what was one of the most important lessons that you learned from this chapter, one of the things that kind of stood out for you. And, anybody can jump out. Those of you who are watching, you can share your thoughts on it as well on the event page. Who wants to be first? Okay, I'm not having an earthquake, I swear.
I thought that, once again, this is a great chapter. We keep talking behind the scenes about going forward, what our next book is going to be. Should we do one book at a time? Should we pull parts out of different books? But it just seems like every time, every book, every chapter has such great words of wisdom for us. So I don't know how we're just gonna keep bringing the good stuff. But it's everybody makes mistakes. That's the thing, and nobody wants to be embarrassed, made fun of, humiliated. Even just privately, but then put one person in front of you or two people in front of you, it makes it even worse. I'm sure everybody here had probably numerous situations as a child where you were criticized in front of your friends, and it just makes you feel horrible. And that's one of the things I mentioned in the pre-mastermind discussion is it makes me cringe when I see. I know, like, I'm not trying to be harsh. I know that the parents feel like they're doing something really, tough love, and it's all good. That they are making videos and they're humiliating their children and then broadcasting it to the world. And it just makes me cringe. I just feel like it's, boy, that's like humiliation magnified tremendously. I can't even imagine being, and it's not just children. I see posts all the time where somebody will catch a shot of somebody in Walmart or something, and maybe they're overweight or their clothes don't match or whatever it is. Like, people make fun of other people on the internet all the time, and it's sad. Like, I just scroll past those because I just think, wow, what if that were me on a bad day, and all of a sudden I'm on the internet one day and here's this picture of me looking horrible with like 5,000 likes on it or something. I don't think we realize the power that this internet holds, for good and for bad. And I just think that we need to be really wise about what we choose to post, and even if it's funny, sometimes if it's funny at somebody else's expense, it's just it's not good. And this chapter spoke about how being careful online, but also, making people feel comfortable, making people not be afraid to make mistakes, not being afraid of ridicule. And I think that part of that comfort zone You know, when you meet someone online, one of the first things that they may do is go to your site and like check out, see what you like, what you don't like, all of that. And if they see a bunch of posts where you're laughing and ridiculing people or making fun, you know, they might sort of be a little bit weary that one day they might be at the butt of your jokes. So just be really careful how you treat people online, and what you choose to participate in.
You know, you actually, that's a really good example of how people are always, you know, showing video of people on the subway doing something crazy, falling asleep or something, or picking their nose or something. And that really reminds me, I'm also reading another book right now called Pay Me What I'm Worth. And in the book, you know, we've been having discussions along with the book, and one of the first things we discussed was really how we are taught. I mean, when you think about it, if you go all the way back to childhood, we're taught to, we get potty trained by leveraging shame. I mean, that's part of our culture, right? And it's a part of our culture that I don't think people realize, but we really are perpetuating a lot of doubt, guilt, shame, and worry, and that's how we teach each other to do stuff, or to do better, and that's horrible when you think about it. So as it relates to the internet, you know, the thing that you were saying about being mindful of what you've got on your wall and stuff and how that can make people feel is it's very important. I think one of the things that I try to do, like if I have a coaching client and I see them post something in a way that's just not the most effective, I'll be like, hey, you know, I'll send them a private message or a text and be like, loving seeing you, you know, the activity you got going on, and love the image that you use with that post. Hey, if you tried this along with that post, think you would get so much more reach. What do you think about that? And then they'll, you know, come back with oh yeah, you know, you're right. But I try to always include some encouragement and then show how they could do it another way, and how it could, and then explain to them how that can improve their efforts.
I think that's a great idea, Christina. You know, and it kind of goes back to what we've talked about previously of in the other chapters of, you know, kind of starting in a what was the chapter called? I don't know, but it was just starting in an easier way or a less critical way, and you know, by starting with a praise and then working into not necessarily a criticism, but into a you know, just advice. And I think that advice, then it sinks deeper and it goes further, and they actually take that to heart and take action on it, versus if you just criticize them, then, you know, then they're not going to see it in the same way. They're just going to be like, what? You know, be upset about it. And I think that's kind of the key. But yeah, anybody else?
Yeah, let me jump out and say real quick. That's kind of something happened to me. It was a little while back, and that usually on I believe you all would agree that your Facebook profile, you know, I've been back and forth with Facebook for probably about 5 years or longer. It's not really, I like Facebook, but it's not just my favorite place to hang out. But, you know, I've had to I've had to learn the settings. I don't really believe some people understand the Facebook, and then some do. But most people on Facebook there, you know, like a lot of my friends from back home, I had to quietly unfriend them, and I let them know why, because usually I would say, you know, and like Christine said, privately I would talk to them offline and online. I would say, look, you know, this is your personality, whether you know it or not, and you should keep some of that stuff, so to speak, your dirty laundry. You need to keep that stuff offline. Don't be out there, you know, broadcasting that, because I believe you all would agree it is pretty much your personality on your profile wall, you know. And I would take anyone private messaging me and say, look, Donna, you know, I would take it gladly. If anybody ever see anything on my wall, I receive constructive, criticism, gladly.
Another thing that I think is important to remember when you're online, in general, even offline, but since we're talking about, in the digital age, it's important to ask permission. Sometimes you see people do some really wrong things that they are not your friend or in your circle, not one of your contacts, right? And sometimes I even have a little challenge with this because I see them do something just a horrible way to be marketing. And, I'm a little uncomfortable because I would like to leverage it as a teaching moment for, the rest of my audience as an example of what not to do. And I think that this is a good thing to do, but I just think that it's important that if you decide to do that, you should, kind of black out the person's picture and their name. All right, that's one thing. And another thing is, if you're actually approaching a person directly, whether you are friends with them or not, you should ask permission. You should say, hey, I noticed that you did this and this on your wall. I have some suggestions. If you're open to them, let me know, and I'll certainly forward them over to you.
That's a real good point, Christine. And a lot of people, I think, they don't take that time to have tact like that when dealing online with Facebook. And I agree with you, Donna. And I didn't even know how to use Facebook when I jumped on. I was kind of a late bloomer to that, and it was only because of one of my old high school friends, urged me to get on and said they would connect with me, and then I connected with like everybody from my past, and it was really cool. But I was fearful of using Facebook because I didn't know really how it was supposed to be used. I didn't know the repercussions and where everything went, and so I kind of took my time with it. But I think it does. It totally makes sense to ask for permission and respect people's their space on Facebook, and respect respect everyone's reputation, and don't put your dirty laundry out there for sure, right? Wow. But I have more, but I just wanted to come out and say that.
You're on mute, Dan.
Dan?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You hear me now? Okay. Yeah, kind of going to go in a little bit different direction here with something that was in this book. It was talking about a company that brought in a new software, and it was a study they did. There's 688 employees in a large healthcare organization where they brought in new software, and the people wasn't really given hardly any instructions on how to work with the software. The company just said, have at it, go out and make it or break it, and the different ways that people approached it. The ones that just went in and made their mistakes were the ones that learned the software, and they were the ones that used the software. And then the other people who were a little bit apprehensive, a little bit frightened to make mistakes, they didn't go in and use the software, and then as a result, they didn't know how to operate the software. And just that the several different examples in here of people who are literally encouraged to go fail. Just go make mistakes. And I ran a painting company for 26 years. I had hundreds of employees over the years, so I trained hundreds of different people how to paint a house. And kind of my teaching style when I was teaching them how to do that would be to show them how to do it and then watch them for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then I would walk away because I knew they were going to screw up. I knew they were going to fail going in. I knew beforehand that it was only a matter of time. They were going to mess things up. Either they were going to get runs in the paint, or they wasn't going to get enough paint on there. But it wasn't until they would actually go do it and make their own mistakes before I could actually even begin to point out, okay, this is you did real good here, but I think we can improve on this over here. So this is not what we're going to need to work on here, and I see that in one area, and I experience that in one area. Then there's other areas of life where I know in my own personal life where I don't want to screw up. I don't, where I trained all these people and I knew they was going to screw up. And then in my own personal life, other areas that I don't want to screw up because I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to look stupid, And so, for me, trying to find that balance in life of, hey, you're going to screw up, So just go in, get it done. And there's a book called Failing Forward by John Maxwell. It's an excellent book. And he has a little saying, I'm trying to remember how it goes: fail early, fail often, fail forward. Yeah, that's how it goes. Fail early, fail often, and fail forward. Because that's how you learn. You go in, you screw things up, you break things, and then you figure out how to fix them. And I said for years that the only thing that made a good painter, the difference between a good painter and a bad painter, is a good painter knew how to fix his own screw-ups. So anyways, I'll turn it over to someone else.
You make a really good point, though, Dan, about really a question of personal competency and your personal belief and confidence. And that's a really good, important point, because when we know what we know about something, if it's like, for example, you're a painter, I know you know how to cut in and tape off and all that. Like, when you know what you know, you do have a different kind of air about you. You kind of carry yourself with a swag, right? But then there's that area of that you're not so sure in, and that's something that you can easily pick up on personally. I think it's something that a leader should be able to pick up on too. I know, for example, when I'm at work and I know someone has a particular skill, I try to encourage them, kind of indirectly by empowering them, which I think that was spoken to in the book, by empowering them. So maybe they have a particular skill when it comes to relating to people, but they're not so technical oriented. Then, I'll just let them know, hey, let's try this out. Let me show you. Let's sit side by side. Let me show you a couple of things. And really, girl, I'll be like, really, girl, I'm not too technical either. If I can do it, anybody can do it, And just say, it's okay if you make a mistake, because guess what? We're going to save. We can go redo, and it's all good, And that, just those subtle steps of empowering somebody helps build their confidence. But guess what else it does? It also sort of lends itself, that's one of those soft skills that sort of lends itself to increasing the trust factor between you. And if you can help that, then you can reduce resistance in whether it's building your business or whether it's networking just in general. That's going to help you forward, and it's going to help them as well.
I think that's a great point, Christina, and especially the part about when you're helping someone and you're talking about the technical side of it. I've had that experience a lot too, where people have come to me and they've been like, gosh, you just make it look so easy. And I'm like, I was a beginner once too. It's completely okay. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was making all these mistakes. I was messing everything up. I was having all these issues, It's no different than what you're experiencing right now. The only difference is I've been doing it a little bit longer, but when I started it, I was in the same exact place, and I think that doing that helps people. Like it says in the book, it's just kind of helping them. It was talking about just giving other people that kind of psychological safety net and giving them that option that, okay, it's okay for me to make these mistakes because other people have made the same mistakes too, and it's not the end of the world. I think that's a big thing. But we've got a couple comments here on the page, and I forgot to welcome everybody who posted on here, so I do want to just give a couple of good mornings to those of you who are out there watching. So good morning, Simone and Dan Sisek and Christopher Camp. Welcome, welcome. BG, welcome. And let's see here. I think that we had a comment. I got to scroll back up here to the top.
I think Julia's here with us this morning too.
Julia, welcome, Julia. Yep, I'm getting back up there. And okay, so Dan says, I think if we go back to the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated, which we all want to be respected and like for who we are. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the key in this book, is it talks about, you know, all the different ways where you can apply that in the different situations. And that's one of the things I just love about this book, is the fact that it helps you to understand, to fully, really understand what that golden rule means. I mean, we've all heard it before, but what does it mean, right? So I'm glad that we have the opportunity to share these different perspectives. Let's jump out.
Well, jump out. Excuse me. I'm seeing like all the chapters we've been discussing, well, that I didn't miss, all meshing together again. But, you know, like, I like what you were just saying, Samantha, about, you know, sometimes people see something you did and think that because they don't know it, they're whatever, then they're stupid. And, you know, I've been in that place where I've maybe seen somebody online and they're doing something great, and oh wow, that they're perfect, or you know, they've just known this forever, and that's not the truth. Everybody's had to learn and go through mistakes and failures to get there. And earlier, a couple of you ladies on the panel were talking about, you know, not airing your dirty laundry on Facebook and all of that, and I agree. But I do think when you have, I think I've mentioned this in a past hangout, that, you know, if you have gone through something where you overcame a failure or a mistake in your life, and you're able to share it in a way online where people can connect with that, because they can say, oh, well, look, I thought she was like this happy, all spiritual and la 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 and perfect life, and then she's admitting that she had a failure, that she had a mistake, and she overcame it, and look at that. So I can connect to that. So I think if it's, you know, not just putting out your dirty crap on the internet, but being able to use it in a way that can help people down the road once you have overcome it, and showing people that those kind of things, mistakes and failures, can become like a seed of success, like Napoleon Hill says, like all of those things can be turned into a growth and a success. So admitting our own failures, like we've talked in the past, and also what we're all talking about again is, you know, seeing people, the good in people, what they're doing right, and praising them for that rather than being critical. So just seeing all of it meshing together. That's it for now.
So that kind of, I think there was a part in the chapter where they were talking about, heck, I can't remember what. I'm reading too many books now, so I can't remember exactly. I might even be confusing this with another book, but it's a good point anyway. When it comes to the how you can help someone facilitate mitigating fault, I mean, when it comes down to it, like we've all said, you're going to screw up at one time or another. And you know, just thinking in general how to just win friends and influence people, how huge is it if you know somebody's screwed up royally, but some way you can kind of ease the blow a little bit, whether it be to maybe not take on the, you know, responsibility of it per se, but diffuse the situation a little bit, or the conversation, or, you know, if, for example, one time I was in my manager's office and there was something huge going on that was really just horrible. Somebody on the team had made just a really bad mistake, and, you know, we had auditors that we had to speak to, and, you know, my manager was really upset about it, and I was too, quite honestly, but rather than to pile on it, I just said, you know, it's really an easy mistake to make when you think about it, because where you have to go in the system to get this information is a little misleading, right? Now, quite honestly, I knew that I had personally taught that person that same error, because I'd caught it, that they'd made an error a month before, but what good did it do to pile on to that person at that point anyway? So I just kind of diffused it a little bit, and when I got back to my desk, I sent them an IM and said, hey, do you want to come over here and let me show you something really quick? Again, helping them just ease the blow is just another way to grow a friendship, or grow a rapport at the very least. So are there any examples of like how people are doing that, how any of you are doing that online as it relates to your business?
Oh, I was going to add another example to that, not an online example, but it was one that popped into my head a number of years ago when I was grooming dogs. I worked in a salon with, it was like 7 other ladies, and so we had a lot of dogs coming and going, and many dogs looked very, very similar. And I was grooming a little Shih Tzu, a little gray Shih Tzu. She was going to get a long, pretty haircut, and it's going to be all long and flowy. And one of the other ladies was grooming a gray Shih Tzu who was getting a shave down. And unfortunately, when she went back after the dogs had both been bathed and they looked so similar, they were in different cages, but she had forgotten where she had put her dog, and she grabbed mine instead. And so she ended up shaving down my dog, who was supposed to have a long haircut, right? And and so in that situation, I could have like been yelling and upset at her. I could have been really mad and been like, what the heck, I wasn't happy about it, but I could have like been just really upset and made it into a much larger situation than it had been. But instead I was like, okay, I can see how you can make that mistake, and then of course we had to talk both to the pet owners and that sort of thing, and kind of help them understand how the mistake could have been made when it just doesn't make any sense to them. But that's a good example, just like what you were talking about, Christina, is helping the other person kind of save face. It's not stuff happens. I mean, that's just part of life, and we have to understand that. And if we sit there creates a problem, and it causes that person to be fearful of making mistakes in the future. But and that's the thing. It's like I was reading, they had they mentioned in somewhere in the front of this book about a Harvard Business Review magazine that was all dedicated to failures and how to overcome failure and dealing with failure and all of that sort of thing. And so I read through some of those articles, and one of the biggest things that it did not do was say that you shouldn't fail. The key isn't about not failing. The key is how you deal with failure, how you you bounce back from failure. And so I mean, we talk about that and how we can we can also use these examples of things that happen to us in our lives. I know there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to maybe start a business for fear that they might lose some money, or they may have somebody look down on them because they think that they're doing something that's crazy, but yet at the same time it's like, I just saw a sign on the side of the road yesterday that said, I buy houses for cash. And I don't know about you guys, but that's like a business opportunity that I saw almost 20 years ago, And I laugh about that when I drove by, because I was like, thinking about the fact that so long ago I saw that, and yet here we are, brand new people in the world that are just being introduced to that. And it just makes you realize how many people are out there who want to make a change. They want to see something different in their lives, and they want, but then at the same time, so many people, they get started, and then all their family members and everybody around them is saying, oh, you shouldn't do it. It's, it's too dangerous. You might fail and all of that. And yet it doesn't stop a lot of people. But I don't know. That's all I wanted to add for right now. Go ahead and somebody else jump out. I want to talk about hang out.
I've actually got it up here on my bookshelf someplace. I've got an article. It's actually in a Reader's Digest magazine, but it's talking about the human brain, and it's talking about the importance of failing, because your brain actually grows. You lay down neurological pathways, and it's actually growth in you through failing, because that's the only way that you're going to move forward. And I've talked about this before in other programs, but that book, John Maxwell's Failing Forward, the book, there's a little short article in there, and it talks about an art class where the teacher gave the assignment at the first of the year and says, you're going to be graded on, he split the class into two different halves. And the first half, he told them, you're going to be graded on the amount of pounds of art that you do, not by how good the art is, but by how many pounds of art that you do. And it was like molding clay and that type of thing. pottery. And so that was the first half of the class. The second half of the class, he told them, you're only going to be required to make one piece this entire course, but that piece has got to be perfect, and you'll be graded on the perfection of your piece. And so the first group went out and they just started making stuff. I mean, they just screwed things up and they made miserable, ugly looking art, you know. But about halfway through, it started looking kind of good. And by the end of it, they had some pretty nice looking pieces. And then the people who was only going to be graded on the perfection of their art never made anything. Okay. And the point there was that, you know, the people who was getting graded on how many pounds of art that they turned out, they didn't care what it looked like. They just got in, they got their hands in it, they got their hands dirty, and they went to work, and they just started churning out stuff. And it was in screwing up the early things where they learned how to fail their way forward, and that was how they began to recognize, well, gosh, you know, I made a mistake on this, and I think I could do this a little bit better over here. And that was how they perfected their form to where they could begin to turn out really good-looking art. And the other people, you know, that they scratched their chin, they looked at things, and they walked around it, and they, you know, scratched their head, and they thought about it, maybe diagrammed it on paper, you know, and walked around it again, and they never did anything. And so as a result of never doing anything, they didn't make anything. So anyways, yeah, I'll turn it over to somebody else for thoughts.
You know, it's kind of, this discussion is making me think of possibly a good blog post, actually. Let me write it down. But there's the 3 F's, you know, that we're discussing in this conversation: fear, failure, and fault. And like, in my opinion, I'm curious how the panel thinks about this, but I think that fear and fault are bad negative. Failure, not so bad, because again, as Dan was just explaining, that really leads to empowering success and wins. But fear and failure I see as a big negative. What do you guys think?
Got pop out on that one. Yeah, I agree with you on that exactly, because there was a time there, and I think the most people that probably looking at the panel there or watching, it's when you understand and you gotta get to find out to, if you're feeling that fear, study that a little bit. Maybe there's something there. Maybe it may not be you. I think in the book there in this chapter they were talking about save face, and then they were asking about he was asking a question like something like, now there are mistakes, and then there are mistakes, and it seems like in this chapter he touched in on like what is that word I'm trying to think? Like some people, like I'll say for myself, let me use me for example. I'm not fearful, but I understand that what you were saying though about being negative, Christina. There's 2 ways, there's 2 perceptions you can look at this. But there was a part of me that for a long time I felt fear, and I couldn't understand that fear. But it was because of my inability, so sometimes just feeling I couldn't say my words just right. I didn't feel good receiving compliments, but that was just because. Now, you know, someone can take and go with that one. I'll leave that alone now.
Hey, I totally get that, Donna. I was fearful of doing videos, and I tackled it by getting out here on this mastermind with everybody, and so I'm so very thankful for everybody coming out here. And you do the thing that causes the fear, and that fear will eventually go away. You make the mistakes because that's how we learn to deal with the mistakes, and that gives us the practice, right? And I agree with what Dan was saying, and that goes along with what we said a couple of weeks back about getting the no's. Getting the no's means you're taking the action. As long as you're getting the no's and making note of what mistakes you made, then you can correct those those mistakes by taking slightly different actions. Doesn't mean you failed and that you're a failure. It just means that the process failed, or there was a kink in the process, you know. So, you know, what Samantha said about perspective totally is correct and in line with how you have to consider working with other people, with, you know, because we have our own fears, but other people have their own fears, and we need to understand both perspectives if we're going to be you know, good leaders. And I think it was striking in the very first paragraph of this section about Sergeant James Allen Ward and the Prime Minister Winston Churchill, when those two people came together to meet, being, you know, one being courageous and brave enough to go out on the wing of their plane and put out a fire, and the other one being a successful politician, ambassador, and you know, each in their own right megastars, but in their own perspectives, they were both in awe of each other and both a little flustered and had some fear. But when that understanding was made between each other and for each other, that totally, you know, it made all the fear go away. And so I guess through understanding and through making the mistakes and understanding them, and also having perspective of how to, you know, where the mistakes are coming from, who's making the mistakes, or even how we're viewing them, is really, really important. And one last thing, I thought also the distinction between the types of mistakes, I thought that was huge for me, because I had been treating every mistake that someone made, whether it be myself or others, the same, and not considering whether it was this a mistake because I just didn't understand the process, or, you know, forgot a step, or was this a mistake that I made knowing that this was, you know, not the correct process, but I cut corners, you know, or the person cut corners, you know. And there's knowing that distinction, and that there's different ways of dealing with those different types of mistakes. That was huge for me. That was a big takeaway from the book.
You know, when we talk about fear, and if for people who happen to be in a business opportunity, I think that this discussion is very good too, because I don't know if it's just me and my experience, but often in business opportunities, the leadership likes to lead, in quotes, with an indirect, unspoken fear. And you know, that fear that you're going to be kicked out of the fold if you're not producing, right? And if you're in a business opportunity, the way you're going to make money, I don't care what any compensation structure is to build some depth, right? And a lot of the challenge that people experience in building a business, building a team or several teams, is building that depth, because they can't get duplication. And you know, when it comes to fear, like, that's one of the things that gives me an icky feeling about network marketing or MLM direct sales, because that whole, if I'm not producing, then the leadership won't pay me any attention, or they won't pick up my call if I call or respond to one of my texts. You know, I think one thing to be mindful of as a leader is certainly to create a secure, safe environment that people understand, you know, whether you're producing or not, you got a home and a family here. Now, certainly I'm going to work with the willing, the people who want to do the activity the most, because they're ready right now to receive what I've got. But make sure and keep it an open, secure, safe zone for your team. Those people who may be lagging right now, you can reclaim them if they see that environment. You know, if they see the whole team out there doing things, they're going to want to be part of those pictures and experience those things too. So as it relates to business and building, I just thought that was important to bring up too.
If nobody don't jump out on that one, that's a winner right there. You hit a home run with that one, Christina, because you know Jim Rohn, the late Jim Rohn, said it best too. He said, "Let the 30s do 30 at the best of their ability. Let the 60 do 60 the best of their ability, and let the 100 do 100 the best of their ability." So you see people that have these inadequacies, and like I said earlier too, you know, we have to identify that within ourselves first. Once we identify that within ourselves, and we become comfortable with us, not that we're some, you know, pick big to do or anything like that, because I've always been uncomfortable with the big to do. But you can take a person that have really found who they are and found their identity and what they flow best in, whether business, offline, work, job. That person will be your, well, see there again, the word won't come. I know what I'm trying to say, but they'll be one of your best, probably your best producers. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'll let somebody else go.
I love that, Donna, with the suggestion to let the 30s be 30s and 50s and 60s and the 100s. That's powerful. Go ahead and jump out if you want to.
There, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now? I was just going to say, you know, I don't see fear or failure as a bad thing myself, only because, you know, it seems like it, and I'll just speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else, but for myself, for whatever reason, most of my growth has come from pressure from the outside, either from pain or from trying to overcome a fear or, you know, avoid a failure or something like that. So they always lead to good things. Without the fear and wanting to overcome the fear, we wouldn't push ourselves sometimes. And one of the biggest examples that I can give personally is when I was in nursing school. You know, you don't really think about it when you go to your doctor's office. You go in to have a surgery, or you know, you go into the ER and somebody comes in to put an IV in you. But we all have to learn these skills. There's always that first time when you're putting an IV in, or for a heart surgeon, there's always the first time that he does that operation. So talk about fear and stepping through fear. Oh my goodness. You know, you're cutting somebody open, or you're sticking something in their arm, or various other places that we have to stick things into. And yeah, it's pretty scary, you know, you really, because you're going to mess up. I mean, everybody misses the vein, everybody, you know, you have to go through those things. And when somebody is experiencing pain on the other end of your mistake, it makes it really easy to get very critical of yourself, you know. And I worked with kids, so there were times I worked with babies that were sometimes a pound. We would sometimes stick them 20 times to get one IV in that would last 20 minutes. I mean, it was really difficult to watch those children experience the pain and the fear and all those things, you know. But it was things that we had to do. So walking through that fear, it just takes you to places that you never, I mean, all of us here on this panel, I'm sure, if we looked at ourselves 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago compared to where we are today, you know, just yesterday somebody was telling me, oh, you know so much about that, and I was just like, ah! You know, I mean, I'm learning every day about this stuff. And I'll just throw out one quick tip here for all you guys online. If you're making posts on Facebook, and you're going to boost it, make sure that you get all your tags and get your thing set up exactly like you want before you boost it, because once you boost it, you can't go back in and edit it. On most of our posts, you can go back in and edit your post, if you realize that you missed putting something in there. But if you're going to boost a post, make sure it's right before you boost it. I had to help somebody with that yesterday. So, but you know, so fear is a good thing. It moves us into amazing places, and I think we need to stop teaching people. And I was really bad as an artist, such a perfectionist with my art, and you can get absolutely paralyzed, you know, by your perfectionism. So just realizing everybody's going to make mistakes, that's the best way you learn, you know, and really just how to deal with that and avoid self-judgment, I think, is the biggest thing. When we make a mistake, we go into this huge self-judgment thing, and then again we paralyze ourselves. So you have to just see that it's just a little speed bump in the road and keep going. Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat anybody else up either.
Yeah, that's great advice, because when we're going through those failures and feel like we've made these horrible mistakes, it can be so painful and hard to get through, because we just think, it's all over, I've ruined it. And you know, every time I've looked back, like you said, at mistakes I've made, at failures, at things that I thought were I messed up at everything, even in relationships, you know, in past relationships where I thought everything was my fault, I did this wrong, it's my fault, you know, this is why it ended. And then looking back, it's like like you said, every single failure or mistake that I perceived and where I beat myself up so much, I gained so much out of it. So it's always important to remember. I had an incident this week where I felt really bad about something, and I thought I made this mistake, and I remembered that, you know, I'm going to grow out of this, and it helped me stop judging and beating myself up about it. It helped me, you know, just breathe through it and say, you know what, I'm going to get somewhere better because of this. So just remember that, and I think that's really great advice. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sandy, that's a really good point. Let's go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, just Julia had a comment over here in the comment section. She said, with so much to learn on social media, so many sites to select, which one should you learn first can become overwhelming and increase our fears. One solution that has helped me was to decide to learn one strategy at a time, learn it for 30 to 60 days, and commit not to learn anything extra that is not part of your learning process. For example, if you are a speaker, you might like YouTube. If you're analytical, you might like PPC. Decide what you like and then select the strategy. And you know, I can really relate to that, because it's like there are so many so many things coming at you at once. It's like, wow, this is overwhelming. I don't know what to do, you know, and to really to zero in on just one at a time and go in and conquer that. And I was just on a training call this week, and that's one of the things that they was talking about. You know, just learn one, master that one, and then move on. You know, and I think that's been part of my problem. You know, it's kept me actually locked up for a long time. Is just there's so much, you know. I think that the term "drinking from a fire hose," you know, comes to mind. So, you know. So, anyways, I just thought this was great what Julia wrote on here. I just wanted to share that.
I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, Sandy made me think of really something important to remember is this whole discussion has been about what you do to help, you know, mitigate faults and mitigate fear and failure. But I understand that something that I want to point out and that I've recently just really kind of learned with reading this other book, Pay Me What I'm Worth, is you have a choice. We all have a choice. Not, you know, sometimes when you're that receiver, you have a choice to how you receive something too. You can choose to take from it what you need and let the rest go, or you can choose to wallow in that frustration. You can choose to wallow in that fear and that pain and that failure and keep yourself stagnant. Now, someone can help you forward, but you have to choose to receive it too.
That's very true, Christina. It comes from within us, right? Like I think it was Bruce Lee that said, what did he say? We must, like a candle, we must be the fuel to our own fire, right? And it comes within us and from within us. And something just last week, I've been having a couple rough weeks, so I've been really trying to get in touch with certain things that cause me to have fear. And one thing that I realized is that people were talking about how um, motion and action can change your mood, and and we've talked about how we can change the way we feel and make ourselves happy by smiling. And so in general, what I've come to understand is motion begets emotion, and also this in reverse works. Emotion begets motion. And then it occurred to me that really those are the only two things we truly have control over, is ourselves, is our actions and our moods. And then it also occurred to me that that is the foundation for really when we realize that we have that control and that we can make we can have an effect on ourselves and our emotions, and then in a positive way that then can drive us a little bit further, and then do it again, and then drives us a little bit further. We can pull ourselves out of anything and really overcome anything. So I just what you said made me remember that, and for me that's really empowering, to be able to know where that control lies, where that power lies, and because then we can take just a little bit of action, and then feel the emotion of, yes, I did that. It might be small to other people, but in my perspective, hey, it was a big leap, and I'm going to appreciate that for myself, and now I'm going to use that to take some more action. And if we can do that, then I think, it's helping me, so I hope it can help others too.
Great point, Jason. You know, we have to celebrate the small stuff. We have to celebrate the small stuff, every little thing. When I first came online, I hardly knew what a mouse was. It was pitiful, pitiful. Last night, I was up until 1 in the morning redoing my website. So, just you can do it. I kept telling myself when I first came online, I'd say, "Oh my gosh, I can't do that. I can't do that." Stop saying that to yourself. You can do it. There's pick one. That was a very good point. Pick one strategy that you're comfortable with and just stick with that. There's tons of information about stuff online, if you want to learn a certain strategy or whatnot. And just don't tell yourself you can't do it. You can. None of us could do it at one point, right? None of us could do anything. We all started out trying to walk and fall over just like everybody else. And when you come onto this online space, we have to learn all these skills. Sometimes you're going to want to pick up your computer and throw it out the window. You're going to get so frustrated, you're going to be ripping your hair out, but you can do it. Just breathe through it. Don't beat yourself up. It's a new skill. It takes time. You're going to make mistakes. Get over it. Go on. And I'm so glad you all joined us this week. I think we had a great discussion, and I'm so glad you're back, Sandy, safely. Is your train gone now, Samantha? Samantha had a train going by. No, it's still going by. Oh, I see it there. Okay, well, we're about 5 minutes over. Shall we wait for the train to keep talking until the train's gone, or you want me to close it up for us?
Just as you're waiting for the answer there, Catherine, I think one thing that I think is important to remember is something that Dan was saying, or was it Dan somebody on the event page was saying, it was Dan Sissick. He was saying basically just remember how you want to be treated, and that's how you treat other people. Remember how you felt in a situation where you weren't comfortable, or you were fearful, or you had failed, and take that opportunity to recognize that in other people and help them through it and empower them through it.
I put in the notes in the group over here. It comes from a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and there's 5 fear points. It says, number 1, as long as you are continuing to grow, there's always going to be fear. Number 2, the only way to overcome fear is to go out and do what you fear. Number 3, the only way to feel better about myself is to go and do it. Number 4, not only am I going to experience fear when I'm in unfamiliar territory, but so is everyone else. And number 5, it's better to face the fear and defeat it than it is to live with the underlying fear that's keeping you stuck. So, that's I didn't have that 100% the way it came out of the book, but it's pretty close. But I was just going from memory, and that whenever you're in unfamiliar territory, there's always going to be a little bit of fear, But do you let the fear overcome you, or do you overcome the fear? And the struggle, the whole thing, all takes place up here in your mind. That's where the battlefield takes place, is right in your own mind. So I'm done. I'll turn it over to someone else.
Yeah, the battlefield of the mind, Dan. Wow. We have control over that. If we just take persistent action and keep our goals in mind, we can do it. We can do it. Thanks everybody for coming out here. If everyone on this webinar and everyone participating, you're in the top 2%, and we're the people out here learning these things so we can change our actions, and so that we don't perpetuate the existence of this thinking where you just you have to come down hard on people that make mistakes. Instead, we're learning how to do it the right way, and we're really going to be able to make a difference. And I congratulate everybody for coming out here, and I'm giving myself a pat on the back right now. And go out and have a great weekend, everybody, and take action, right?
Oh, great talk today, guys. Did everybody have a chance to kind of add their final thoughts? I didn't hear anything while the train was going by, so I apologize for that. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we're a little after the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and close up for today. So thanks for joining us. Meet us again next week, SaturdayMorningMastermind.com. Jump to our community, which is MindsetMasteryCollective.com, and then like us on YouTube, like us on Google+, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great weekend, and bye for now.